order. Okay,
And I thought Mr. Cleaver pull into the parking in a second.
okay. Well, we'll go ahead and call it to order, and I'll open it up for citizen comments. All right. Did any citizen comments get turned in?
None pulled in.
All right. With there being no citizen comments, I'll move on to the active agenda. First item is approval of minutes of March 11th, 2025.
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Anybody have any questions? All right.
And I did include a copy of the annual audit, if there were those, very minor changes you guys had requested from Pestel Gage, so they sent me the clean copy. And that is attached to those minutes in your packet.
All right, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Approval of invoices for O'Sullivan Legal LLC for March 2025 in the amount of $501.50.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Next item is review of financial summary for February 2025. I believe we didn't have this last time, is that correct?
That is correct. We have not received anything from the meeting. So just general overview of fiscal activity. The available funds at the bottom. So East Orchard Sewer, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about the bid award. We have $1,519,750.02. And Bryden has $1,815,678.01. And downtown Louisville has $507,947.71.
Katie, I saw that in the email, but what page are you on the packet here?
28.
28 and 34.
Okay, thank you.
This for discussion only. Does anybody have any questions?
And then once I've received, with the meeting being so early, because the first was last Tuesday, once I've received March's, I will send that out to the board, and then it will be in next month's packages for a quick review, but I'll try to get it out to you guys once I find it from finance.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Christine. Right. There being no questions, I'll move on and open it up to the next item, which is East Orchard Sewer bid review and recommendations to city council.
Okay, so in your guys' packet, I did kind of some memo reminding everybody of the steps that we've been through to this point. So last June, you as a board directed staff to have Merrick create construction documents that solicit bids for the 5 sections that have been designed. So that's segments 17, 18, 19, 7, and 1. In our East Orchard Sewer revenue allocation area. At our October 8th URA meeting, Merrick provided some updated construction costs from those previous engineer estimates that had been in those design segments. And then at our January 14th meeting, Mr. Kaufman, who is here today and will be presenting bid information, presented that bid package to you guys. And so that bid package was advertised on February 20th and 25th, and bid opening was on March 18th. Mr. Kaufman has provided in your packet a kind of summary of those bids for the board to review and recommend to city council, and he'll kind of walk through that, because that's his area of expertise. And then I also included in your packet, similar to when we do the annual report and we do a budget actual, I did a budget actual where we're at for what we had budgeted for East Orchard Sewer when we did the budget last August, to where we are currently. So you have what our estimated bond receipts were, which was $690,000 in increments, $15,000 in interest. To date, we are at $420,572.84 in tax receipts. It's increment that has come in. With $12,081.79 so far received in interest. And so you can see that that has kind of what we have estimated to be remaining. I do think that the estimate is low. We took in more money than that last year in the second set of increment payments. So I think that this is being very, very conservative to monies that'll still be coming in. And then for project costs, we had some remaining costs for that rock boring study. And then there was some outstanding construction costs to go along with the bid documents and all those other items that Merrick was doing that we have not paid yet. So we have budgeted $125,000 for that. We've spent 101 and 974.75. So approximately 23 is still hanging out there. That will get paid as we continue to move forward in the process. And then the other items you can see in there are the bond payment to the interest and the principal, what we estimated for professional services, what we estimated for publications, and then what has been paid out for professional services thus far. Our bond payment is paid in September, so that of course does not go out until then. So along the bottom kind of shows you what our available fund balance is. What we had projected, and then that remaining amount. So that'll kind of go along with the discussion we'll have with Mr. Kaufman about what those bid amounts that came in are, what staff's recommendation is from him in looking at what those bid amounts are, how much work we would be getting done for those bid amounts, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to provide you with, some dollars to put together with those bid packages, so you know kind of where we sit financially. With that, I will open it up for you, Joe, to go through everything else.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't bring anything else that's in your packet, but I did print out some larger size title sheets because not many people have larger format paper to print on. People want those to look at, a little more legible with the numbers. Areas.
Share that.
Yeah, we opened bids, we had an impressive amount of interest. We had 7 bidders. I think in my time here at the city, usually a project like this would have about half that number of bids. So the level of interest was good. And I think in the memo, if you read that, Emma Albright is the lowest bidder for the base bid plus the alternates that they're recommending the award. It is worth pointing out that if just the base bid were to be awarded, it would go to a different bidder, this KG&T Septic Incorporated. Up north. But
So, or
Yes.
question. Are we bound to take the lowest bidder?
yes,
Oh.
basically.
Not a bad practice, usually.
Well, I guess when there's 2 that are that close and one's local, I didn't know if we would have, had, any leeway or,
No.
legal opportunity to.
I think your options
Stay
really
local.
are to, as long as all the bids are responsive, like there isn't a flaw where you could disqualify someone. Then the council could elect to reject all the bids for, pretty much any reason that they would want to. But then you either have to rebid the project overall or not do it. Yeah, we're pretty well bound to having to award it to the lowest bidder. But yeah, this is kind of unusual to have any sort of change like that, because the work is all pretty similar. So usually whoever is lowest on the base bid would be lower on whatever combination of alternates you put together. Yeah. Takeaway in my mind is just that there was a lot of interest and they got pretty good prices. If you look very closely, you'll see there's a pretty wide range of prices from some of the bidders, so.
Is that surprising?
It's a little surprising to see some of the higher bids there. I mean, it takes effort to put a bid together, and when you have so many that are so much lower. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that exactly. But
So we, we recommended the city council, and the city council approves.
Yes.
Because the
So,
city actually enters into the contract with the contractor. We just act as the bank.
Right.
We are the money. The city will run the project. The city enters into that actual contract.
So our role is to recommend.
Yes.
I want to make sure that we bring it back to you, get a chance to look at what our actual bids were. And, yeah, make a recommendation to city council, kind of themselves about how they should proceed. Yeah, the other bit of information that may be useful is that we have been getting some interest from people that are having problems with their septic systems, but it's pretty much exclusively been along, that segment 7 in Grell. So far, they seem to be the ones that are calling us or inquiring.
Yeah.
How soon?
Did you
will
say
this be done?
seventh and growl?
Oh,
Segment
it's
seven.
segment 7.
Segment.
So if you look at the,
Segment of growl.
they were all given numbers at one time when we were looking at the whole basin, and so 7 is kind of that piece of grill that is the block where, Lindsay Creek Road intersects in that segment 7. That's kind of that local low point you get.
21st to 22nd.
Yeah. I think there's at least 2 failed septic systems in that block. People are-
On this between growl, 21st and 22nd.
Yes.
So what is the timeline for like them starting the project? Or
Um,
gonna depend on,
Well, we already have kind of this item tentatively on city council's agenda for their 28th meeting.
okay,
If the URA, recommends that they award that, that's when that should be on the city council's agenda, so they could award that on the 28th. It would be probably at least a couple months before you would see any construction. There's some flexibility in the contract about when they would get started and when their contract days would start, so we'd have to work with the contractor some. I talked with, the current little bidder a little bit, and I don't think that they're not out of work and trying to get started as soon as possible, which sometimes happens. They wanna work through that and get up there, but they're not trying to push us for every day sooner that they could get started.
so the base bid mounts, they're kind of all across the board are they locked in, are those fixed prices, or can they? And there's quite a bit of difference in pricing, I wasn't sure if they're using different material or like used on.
I don't know why they're so
Okay.
different. I mean, some of it can be that, there may be a contractor that has a pretty full schedule for the season, but they say, well, if we pay a bunch of overtime this year, we could also do this project, and to make that profitable, like, it stacks up so that their bid's a lot higher than someone else who isn't as busy.
Sure.
Sometimes they'll do that, especially if people don't think that there's that many bidders or,
Sure.
but, that's what they've said they would do the project for, but they all have the same specifications. It requires the same sort of pipe. They have to meet the same pipe bedding, backfill, compaction standards. They're each required to build the same project.
Okay.
They might have different suppliers, so sometimes someone might be paying more for pipe than somebody else. But
So for this project, will any of these sections, will they actually tie into the city's sewer
yes,
as part of the project?
all of them, I mean, when the project gets done, they'll all be live. They could accept wastewater and you put it in there at the service and it will end up as a treatment plant.
Excellent. So how much, so I'm assuming that there, in the future, will be branches off of these main lines,
Yes.
and how much of that was it?
It's a good question. So the philosophy on this project, really was we're focusing on those segments that are downhill of bigger areas in the basin. So these are the ones that are required to go in so that you can put more collection lines in there.
Future.
There would be some other segments if we were just looking at the ones that were adjacent to the line that's in now and had the most houses that might have scored higher, but this is a little bit longer term look about building out that network so that we, kind of the next milestone is as things build out to get to the point where there's public sewer within every block of the area that we can service without having to
So
pump.
this will do.
That's kind of what we're
That's
building
the
towards
end game.
now. I mean, the end game would be to have something in every street available for people that, like that intermediate one is, you're close enough, like if there is a big development up there that sewer's close enough that they can extend that and get it into their development, that you're close everywhere.
Oh, question for council, where Doug and I live within a block of number 7. Do you suggest we abstain on a portion of that, or? I mean, it's not right by our house, but only a block away.
Are you? You sure you live?
My understanding is usually you only need to abstain if you're going to have a monetary benefit from. So if like if you were employed or owned ML Albright,
I don't think I.
Is that
can
correct,
hook
Pat?
up,
Am I-
so-
stating that
Y-
correctly?
ye- Yes, since you don't have any personal money benefit, I can never say that word, you don't need to abstain.
Gotcha, thanks.
Perfect. All right,
Okay.
anything else you want to add?
Oh, yeah, I got a question. How deep do you have to go?
Oh, it varies quite a bit.
What's the
Across
deepest?
Well, I'll start with the shallowest, 'cause the thing I was worried about, it's right there as you get to the intersection with Lindsay Creek. and that
Well, I'm sure it is
because-
shallow there,
um,
because it's natural.
And, if you go all the way back, because the design on the initial project in Grell, at the corner of 20th there, it had to be very deep, just so that it could be deep enough to get underneath that pinch point
Yeah.
at the intersection. So, that one is roughly 18 feet deep, if I remember correctly, very close to that. And that's where we're tying in with that same corner of the segment 17 over there. So, that's, well, that'll be the deepest part of the project, is that tie-in.
That's deep.
It's deep, it's more than a 2-story pole.
Is there any rock that deep?
Yes.
Paid for a
There was a
survey.
lot of rock excavation in Grell that was put in, and there's a substantial amount in this project too. To keep it down there, because the rock is very shallow, kind of right there through Grell and that
You
intersection.
think that had any bearing on the price of the project?
It did. If you went to go and look at the individual items, like it's broken out in the bid form for rock excavation for each of those segments. So,
And then they probably can't use a lot of that to backfill with, or can they?
not really, not the rock.
Yeah.
The native material that isn't rock, we're planning to use as backfill as long as it's suitable and that it's not too wet. In the original trunk line project, that's about what we were able to do, is about half native backfill and then half import material. When we did the one block on Cedar, sort of like, I guess, viewing from a deck of cards, it's just too small, like, so there wasn't really any suitable material in that.
Yeah, we ran.
Did that, so
something
we had
like
to
that
import
for
everything.
compaction problems, you can use the material that came out wasn't suitable for compaction. Couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Sometimes it's just the moisture and timing, but, yeah. So I think we'll be using a substantial amount of native, and kind of assuming that it's gonna be half. But I know that the stuff you hammer out with rock, that's just,
Yeah,
unless they take it back and crush it,
crush it. And
they'll probably backhaul it to wherever they're buying their pipe bedding and rock from. And it'll probably end up processed, but you don't see any benefit of that
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
No, in fact, there's a charge for the haul, probably to get rid of that
Always.
material.
oh, yeah, it's cooked into,
Yeah,
One
it's
of the
all
unit
part of the
prices.
number.
yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I was wondering about the depth, cause I still, it's just, crazy, you know, elevation to be trying to fish a line through, so I kind of figured it was fairly deep.
It is.
I didn't think it was 18 feet deep, but.
Well, I mean, it gets shallower from that, like, it's pretty much a point, like the last segment coming up into Grill from below, you know, it gets deeper, it's shallower before that, and then
Yeah,
it gets shallower the further east you get on Grill, until it gets to like barely deep enough, right in the intersection.
Well, I
And
mean,
then it kind of transitions to just being laid on top of the
Yeah.
rock at that point, going up the hill, so it's not very deep after that. We're not doing rock excavation anywhere.
yeah. Well, I know just from the neighbors asking me, because they've been contacted by somebody, company or the city or something, that where the line's gonna go is just south of me. So I'm that much lower, so the 18-foot, depth to pick up everything doesn't quite get, beyond, Cedar and 22nd and 20, yeah, it'd be 22nd and 3rd. So those homes, like me and beyond down to Borough, are at a lower elevation than 18 feet. So unless you went down 25 feet or so, whatever, it wouldn't work, so.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of picking up bits and pieces from what the people are saying,
Okay.
talking around the neighborhood, so.
Will that excavation entail, explosives
No,
blasting?
I don't anticipate that.
Okay.
I
Hope
mean,
not.
if you want to get into.
You never know.
We actually did allow for that in that first phase of the project years ago, especially in an area that was fairly far away from homes, but they didn't.
And
Contractors didn't choose to do that. They just hammered it out in the old way.
Oh,
I think people get nervous about
Sure.
blasting, even if it can be done safely.
yeah.
It gets to be too much of just a perceived risk, even if.
So we're amazed by the 18 feet in depth. What's the shallowest?
Approximately 4. 3 to 4 feet. In that range.
And I can never remember, Joe, because it don't implant it in my mind. How many homes do we have now on this total project that have converted from septic to sewer?
So the total number of homes on the system now, I know we did a map, not that long ago, where we went through billing. I think was the number 68? Or was that the earlier draft?
Yeah, I want to say it was over 70.
Yeah.
It was like 72 or 73.
Okay.
I put all that information, gosh, that might have been a year and a half ago now, when we went through and I had done all of the segment work. Because this will hit, I think it's 25 homes, 25 existing homes will be covered by the 4 segments that are being recommended to be awarded to.
Are we doing that, or is the city doing that? You look at it at the time of installation, they're gonna get a discount or something?
Well, we had, a grant through, DEQ earlier, when we were able to offer that. Right now, we applied for another one and we've not anything awarded, so. The project is budgeted and to extend a service line to the property line for those homes, then that's gonna be paid for, so. That's a benefit to those property owners that buys down the cost to convert. I think that's the limit of what we're able to do on this project.
So the simple answer is no, we don't have the additional grant funds from DEQ to do the same thing we did before.
I didn't even know the grant fund was involved
Yep,
in
it
that.
was
I
grant
thought it
funds.
was just the city being,
No,
playing nice.
Nope, it was grant funds.
I didn't know that.
Like the city does so.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the long version of it is spent more time talking to attorneys than you really want to about what was allowed to be done with repair money, with property tax. And really, that grant, those monies were for that sort of work, and so that allowed us to pay for those improvements on private property, but without kind of like sort of grant, we just, even if we think it's a great idea or you guys think it's great,
Legally, we cannot.
couldn't do it.
I was thinking more in terms of, and it doesn't matter now, but, like permitting, inspection fees, hookup fees, all those kind of fees. I wasn't thinking about the actual
Okay,
digging and laying the pipe and all that stuff. I was talking about the
Yeah.
inspection fees.
so in fee wise, I think we could, we'd have to
Easy,
talk a little
Joe.
bit more about that. But last time how that worked was that, you know, the equity buy-in fees, like those stayed the same, but they were reimbursable kind of in the same way as the other expenses were
Okay.
on that grant.
Well, we
So
don't
that
go
helped pay that.
down
They did waive the inspection fees if they were connecting while the project happened,
Right.
basically, like if they did that before it got finally paved out,
Yeah.
because we had construction inspection
It was going on.
anyway for the main part of it, and so they didn't have to have someone going up
Right.
confirming that they didn't damage the pipe when they connected to it, and then confirming that they patched it back right. And that's what it was. So that's likely doable again. But
We have a feel for how many might bite at that opportunity.
I don't know,
We've got a couple on board already, probably, the two failed ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Seven.
I think that they're,
There's probably more of that situation than we realize out there, where people are struggling with their septic system and just don't see any solution. And so they're not seeking out a solution, like the one gentleman, his septic he's been pumping it since 2009.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, how many more people are doing that, where when they see a sewer line go through and be going, hey, we'll take that. We don't know, and eventually everyone will, because now that there's a sewer line close enough, they can't rebuild their septic. They'll have to.
Madam Chairman, are we to the point, do we need a motion to, recommend to the city to go with the base and alternatives 1 and 2,
Do you want to break it up?
put it on the floor, or?
If the board wants, so the board can decide how they want to make recommendations. So staff did a review, and that's part of the reason why I provided all that financial information. Our recommendation would be to do the base plus alternatives 1 and 2, so that gets 17, 18, 19, and 7 built. We have the money for that. We would be able to pay all the rest of our bills. So we would be good to do that. And so if that is how the board would like to recommend, that would be the motion, is to award that specifically to ML Albright, because they would be the low bidder with the base and alternative 1 and 2.
Well, if you're ready for that, I will
Alright, I am
make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody have any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. I'll explain that later.
Thanks,
oh,
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Motion passes. With Doug Havens. All right. Next item on the agenda is review of URA resolution and board member Higgins' concerns regarding the 2029 envelope. And I will open this up by saying that Doug Havens came to me with his concerns. and
It's
so I-
just Doug, you.
Okay. Doug came to me with his concerns, so I asked Katie and Thad to look into this further and wanted to put it on the agenda so we could discuss it and let Doug express his concerns and then kind of open it up for Thad and Katie to kind of give
Oh,
any
good.
feedback in regards to that. So I don't know if you want to bring up your
Well, I
concerns.
was hoping to have a little bit more information, but the prosecutor couldn't make our meeting yesterday to kind of solidify where the county's headed. Lloyd, the Barney Nutt showed up. He had some concerns about if having to do with the Brighton Avenue project. and what the county's position might be that would affect whatever agreement there is between the URA and Lloyd. So, we couldn't give him a lot of answers too. Our concern is that from everything I've provided to the prosecutor and all the information that the prosecutor's office has done, or the investigation they've done, that 2029 date is out there. And you can't, the prosecutor cannot really find where it's not a relevant date. Creation in 2005 is also under review, I guess. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know exact words I should probably say. That doesn't make the 1999 date irrelevant. And so there's a little bit of question about if the URA is already extended past their 25-year life. Which in the case would be, it would have ended in like 23 or 24, which in case money has been expended, that maybe would have to be paid back if a court determines that. They're still looking into that. The county's position is that with the 29 date out there, just going by the 29 date, that bonds are still relevant because they have to be paid off. So that has to continue. That paying that bond has to continue. There's concern that because of the impression, the URA during its formation, and I have the relevant documents, I can't remember if they were in the few that I gave you, where, and that issue was raised, should a taxing entity struggle with financing because of money being diverted? And that was raised by former Mayor Nessett, actually, way back in the early days. That the response was, well, the bonds can be paid off early. Now, that is, we are not really adhering to that. So something was said in the meeting that is not actually taking place. Bonds are not being paid off early, other than, well, at this point, it's not, a long ways into the 30-year bond. Which is what, 2017? When was the bond taken?
I believe 2017.
Yeah, I think so too. I was kind of guessing at that because I wasn't deeply involved. So an impression was left with the board members at that time. Granted, nobody, maybe Butch was here. Yeah. This goes back into 05, I think. So impression was left with the taxing entities that, okay, good. Well, if there's additional funds coming in, it'll go towards the bond because that'll shorten the life and everybody, and that's back on the tax rolls and away we go. But we're not doing that. So an impression was made in order maybe to get approval, the vote, whatever, that we don't do. We don't do it. So there's concern there. There's also concern that the projects in one area, it's not really specific, well, two areas actually, revenue allocation area aren't specific enough, but they are specific enough to show that the increment being generated is not enough to do all the work. There's just not enough increment being generated on a year-to-year basis. And so that could go on forever. So I'm talking about the downtown and Brighton Avenue. And that's where Lloyd has a concern. Because the little bit of increment that's coming in is enough to do their work. Which has something to do with fire lines, upsizing some lines and creating a fire flows. Which actually is a pretty good idea because there's some property that's underutilized and they can't build on it because of fire flows. Is what we were told by Lloyd. But it's not enough to do 3 lanes, 5 lanes, sidewalks, and all that stuff. It just won't get to that point. And I think even Dustin Johnson said it would take 50 years to get there. So the county has a number of options, and that's gonna be up to the prosecutor. And I'm curious to hear what Thad has to say, or Katie, about this, but worst case scenario, until we get this all ironed out, would be, and I'm not an attorney, would be to file something in the form of an injunction that just stops all spending until a judge rules. Is this under the 99 plan? Is it under the 2000 plan or 2005 plan? Does it qualify, do all these revenue allocation areas qualify as part of a urban renewal plan? Are they specific enough? Do they meet the definition of, plans? And so that would probably be worst case scenario. And then worst case beyond that would be if the 99 day is a question. So that'll be
I'll just,
Right, so
somebody else.
we'll let that talk.
so,
Yeah, that's my whole thing.
At this point, it sounds like the county is an adverse party to the URA. And so I'm not going to provide legal advice to the URA in an open meeting, especially when Doug is a member of the county board, legislative body. And so, and frankly, I can't really say anything until I see what Justin comes up with. So I'm not going to comment right now.
I would like to say though, Doug, that we have paid towards the bond to pay it off early. We paid $500,000 in 2 separate principal payment only, one for 300 and one for 200,000. So I wouldn't say that it's accurate to say that we're not paying extra on the bond.
No, I think that's, considering the size of the bond, that's pretty minimal. And considering the size of the balance, fairly minimal. So I think I stick by my statement though.
Okay.
All right.
Is that all? I was really open to have a discussion. When did I first bring this up? February or?
When
I thought it
you,
was last meeting.
yeah, last meeting you
month.
had mentioned it, and then you came to me.
No, I think it was
About
before the
4
last
weeks
meeting
ago.
because there was a meeting that, in fact, the last meeting, we didn't talk about it at all.
February, you brought in that paper and you said you didn't know what this
Yeah.
book of
Yeah.
papers was. And it was information from, I'm guessing, your legal team, because it was legal opinions regarding the modification of plans.
There's a lot of stuff out of this binder.
The legal information was not stuff out of that binder.
Well, some of it
The
was.
legal stuff was regarding modifications of plans. There were some case law that was included that did not come from us. I think it was probably put together by
Well, case law, so I mean.
your legal team. And then it did have sections from the 2005 plan, and then it had sections from the 2012 annual report.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to put it on the agenda because I know you came to me and expressed concerns. I wasn't sure if everybody else was aware of all the concerns, so I just wanted to open
Right,
it up
no, I get
to
that.
discuss it and
I was really hoping to have a discussion about the history, because most of us are new here. And that's fine too. I don't need to be a part of what's probably gonna be executive session stuff. The county went through that last time. And so that's perfectly fine. I am a little disappointed that the prosecutor, that, and the city attorney have not had a discussion. I don't understand why so many months go by that this hasn't been talked about. Which would, well, yes, I know the system doesn't move real fast, but anyway, that's really all I got.
Great. Well, I guess we'll hear back from legal eventually when Dad talks to everybody and.
So is Justin going to reach out to us?
Justin, Nancy, Travis, I'm not sure who's,
Okay. But we should be expecting some sort of communication from them.
Well, I would not hold him to that. It'd be best if somebody talked to somebody. I'm not gonna tell what they're gonna do. I mean, the next thing could be something in a form, something that's not very popular. But it seems like it'd be better to talk about it prior. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I can't speak for the prosecutor.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions about the conversation? No? Okay. With that, I don't think we need to vote on anything, so we'll just wait to hear from future legal. We'll move on to unfinished and new business and open it up for board member comments. Does anybody have anything they want to share with the good of the group?
Thing I've got is that my wife showed me some Facebook comments made about the downtown project.
Oh,
And if those comments were a good reflection of what's going on in the city, I'd say the thing isn't gonna pass, which concerns
So
me.
you're talking about the water.
The downtown,
May 20th bond.
Main Street rebuild
Yeah.
and D Street, which, yeah, that would be really disappointing to me.
Well, I have an opinion on it. I'm not sure the city's doing a great job of selling it, which I think they're restricted in certain ways from doing that.
Yeah, I had that
Because,
thought as well.
I don't know who takes the lead on that because the county is, well, I can't speak for the whole county.
I have
There's
seen
people
some,
in the county that are supportive of the project, but you wouldn't know it because it's just not out there. And so I mean, maybe Katie or maybe Thad could talk about why isn't it campaign? Who can campaign, who can run the informational campaign that answers all these questions people have? They look at it as
Yeah.
a tax
because it's
increase.
like a city.
Luke, are you able to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, so because it's a GO bond, the city can't advocate for yes or no. All we can do is provide information. That information is available on the city website and through a number of other resources. But it's also being presented, the next time will be in the Orchards Community Church on April 15th. at
Have an open
5:30.
house thing.
There'll be an open house there. That'll be the second open house that we've had. And depending on turnout, which wasn't great at the first one, I think there was 13 people showed up.
Yeah.
If more interest is given at the next one, we'll try to do another one. It kind of depends. And in the meantime, I know there's some social media postings ramping up, as well as I'm expecting some mailings, if I remember right. And Dustin's been the one coordinating.
Can I ask Luke a question? This is the part I don't understand. It's a GO bond, government obligation bond,
Yes.
right? Okay. What people are concerned about is that the government has this obligation and how is it gonna be paid? And I think the answer has been, I mean, the city's response in some roundabout fashion has been, well, we already have the, payment. We already have it. It's through government operations, whatever. But you don't really come out and say it's not gonna be a tax increase, but I guess it's restricted. You can't say that. You can't say that, we already have the money, it's right here in the budget, and explain how it's in the budget. Can't do that?
I think we are doing it.
I was
At our
gonna say,
first
I think
open
Dan
house we
Johnson
did.
did at a meeting I attended. He
Yeah.
spoke out. I went to a chamber of luncheon
Okay.
with, a new luncheon.
So what line items is it coming out?
Well, he didn't give specific line items.
See,
But
that's
I
what I
remember,
wanna-
but here in his defense, his PowerPoint was broken. They were having some technical difficulties, but he did verbally mention that it was covered, so.
I can try to speak to it if you're interested. So the just lost the name, enterprise funds.
Yeah.
For the utilities, will be
Yeah.
contributing each their portion. And then also the council has, over the last couple of years, been trying to set aside additional funds to be able to save for arterial street reconstruction.
Okay,
Main Street qualifies.
okay,
And those revenue streams have just been going into a fund to be able to
okay,
build big projects. And so this qualifies as a big project. And that revenue stream is adequate to more than cover a 30-year note
okay.
for the,
Without, so now, listen,
without having to raise
okay, taxes. What about fees?
on.
Water fee, it's part of the fees, enterprise fund. Enterprise funds are made up of fees.
Oh, I got you. So this is being pulled from capital projects revenue streams already. So this is existing revenue that's coming in.
Okay.
And so the intent is that this project does not increase.
Well, somehow I think people are missing that.
Well, I'm sure, and I mean, anyone is gonna be skeptical of what we're saying.
Maybe Elaine's gonna help you out here.
That meeting on the 15th, where was it? When and where was that?
The
Community church.
Fortress Community Church,
On
5:30. That's a Tuesday, I believe.
I did see a notice in the paper that spelled that out pretty clearly, I thought. But not everybody in town gets the paper, unfortunately.
Well, I think the city has been clear that the federal funds that they have, plus the savings that they have, plus the revenue stream, will cover the project. But they can't say there would be no tax increase. There shouldn't be a tax increase unless the city makes some move to spend some of that money on something else. And I think the campaign, the city can provide information and has. I don't think the city can campaign per se. But my understanding is that Linnea Noreen, the chamber president and executive director, is leading the campaign, and that will come before May 20th. I know that she was at a meeting and I volunteered our household to have a cottage meeting so the city could lay out the facts and the numbers. So I think those are being scheduled.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything they want to add? No? All right, we'll turn it over to Katie for staff comments.
Okay, so we do have, Megan with Elon and Burke scheduled to come to the May meeting, to go over, that URA, kind of PowerPoint review that she had done for us a couple of years ago, that Doug had brought up before. And then she's also gonna talk about, the results from this last legislative session and the new laws that will affect URAs. So she'll have both of those items at the May meeting. And then the second thing, so we still have an open, at-large position on the board. I previously reached out to the school district. We had one of their board members who did say that they were interested, and then changed their mind about that. Just because of logistics with the type of business that he operates in, and conflicts that he didn't want to unnecessarily cause himself. So, I had reached out to Lance Hansen, who's our current superintendent. He is leaving at the end of June. There are not any other board members who are interested in taking on another board position. But it does sound like maybe the new incoming superintendent would be interested in applying. So much like any other, open position, you would fill out an application, we would hold an interview, and then the appointment by council. So that's the update on that, because we had been expecting an application
I
from.
have a question,
Sure.
because this could have happened before I got here, but, has the bylaws been, changed?
No.
Oh, so that hasn't been done.
So currently the way.
So that would have to be done.
It would not have to necessarily, it would have to be done if we wanted to be it specifically only for
School.
the school district.
Oh, that's
So-
not what our intention is?
So right now, it's
At-large.
an at-large position. You guys can definitely give, so much like when Joy Rapp was in the position, it was an at-large, it's always been an at-large position, it's never
Yeah.
been school district specific. So, you can give preference to someone from either the school board or the superintendent. And that would be part of that application review and interview process. And that was the discussion, previously, that was the direction the board wanted to move, is that we get someone into that position. Because the original conversation that Mr. Gish had brought forward was an elected school board member. There is not an elected school board member interested in joining.
Yeah, I thought it had something to do with the school district, being, taxing.
Yes, that was what Mr. Gish had brought up, is that
Okay.
his interest in adding that was because they were a taxing entity.
Yeah.
His language specifically was that it be an elected school board member, so we're trying to get there without having to go through the changing of the bylaws with council, so.
That meeting with Elam is for, May 13th, second Tuesday is.
And that's the second Tuesday, yes.
And you weren't gonna be able to attend, or were you?
Not,
Okay.
or in June.
Okay, so him at May or June.
All right, anybody else have any other questions of Katie? All right. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Okay.
Okay, motion second, all those in favor say aye.
I,
All those opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank
Are these
you.
for us to keep?
I believe.
Yes.
Can I have one more?
Yes.
Okay.
How does many of those people don't take? I don't want to take any of them back.